All right, what's going on, my friends? Now 3 o'clock. The Trailblazers play their final game before the All-Star break tonight. Minnesota Timberwolves are in town. Tip at 7. I'll have game day live from Moda Center at 4:30. Malcolm Brogdon is out with elbow tendonitis. Scoot listed as probable. Clippers forward P.J. Tucker fined $75,000 for expressing his desire to be traded. We'll head down to Phoenix and talk with Felix Flex Cruz at 3:20 and get the latest on Isaiah Stewart attacking Drew Eubanks. The Seattle Seahawks have informed Geno Smith he will remain on the roster this week, so he'll have access to $12.7 million fully guaranteed. The team could still trade him before March 18th. Elsewhere, the Bears have released veterans Cody Whitehair and Eddie Jackson. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad is coming at you right now. All right, what's going on, my friends? Rip City Drive. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday afternoon. It's unfortunate that the weather is taking a turn for the worse, but we're getting ready for the All-Star break. The Blazers play their final game tonight before the break. They'll get 8 days off. Minnesota in town for a second game. Tip-off at 7. I'll have game day for you live from Moda Center at 4:30. We're going to head down to Phoenix in 20 minutes and talk with our NBA insider and good friend Felix Flex Cruz. We're going to find out if he's got any specific details on Isaiah Stewart attacking Drew Eubanks and getting arrested for it. So Flex coming up in 20 minutes. If you want to jump on board, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And you can reach out to Dwight on X, at Dwight Jaynes. You'll find me there at Chad in Rip City. Now, Godfather, yesterday before we were done with the show, you informed myself and the rest of the audience that you had an agreement with your wife, Nancy, that there were no gifts to be bought for Valentine's Day, and that was one you wanted to make sure you kept because she gets upset if you buy a nice gift and she doesn't have anything, and you don't want to make her feel bad. So the decision was you leave the station, you were going to go pick up some really nice Mexican food, I think, out in Tualatin or somewhere in an area. You said it was good. You didn't want to give up the location because you don't want it to be overrun by people. I understand that. How did things go at the Mexican restaurant when you went to pick up your food last night?
Well, Chad, thanks for asking.
I care. I'm here to help you, Godfather.
Yeah. Not so well, actually. I have those wireframe glasses, and they just don't hold up as well as the regular glasses that are plastic or whatever they make these things from. So I get in there, and it's packed, of course, a lot of people coming and going, a lot of servers kind of running around where I am. I'm standing by a cash register to pay, and I look down to sign the receipt, and my glasses fell off. And I immediately discovered that they didn't all fall off. What's called the temple of the glasses, which is the part that hooks over your ear, on one side, that was still there. But the rest of my glasses had fallen off. The other temple and the eyeglasses themselves had fallen off. So I finished signing, and then I looked down to try and find those. Well, to make a long story short, me and one of the employees, and I think even a couple of people who were seated having dinner, looked around and helped me. No glasses. I could not find them.
Wow.
And so this morning I went there when they opened and talked to the manager, and he said, oh, yeah, somebody did turn in some glasses. Unfortunately, they were not mine. So, and I have a feeling really that maybe somebody picked up that portion of my eyeglasses, saw they were broken, and thought, well, they're no good. Somebody must have just tossed them. So they probably just got thrown in the garbage or something. So, unfortunate, but when I did see what was left, it looked to me like they probably weren't going to be repairable anyway. It just didn't look good. So anyway, I have a favorite eyeglass place in the Pearl. People always ask me where. It's a place called Visage, and trust me, they don't pay me or anything, give me even a discount for mentioning them. But I went over there this morning and took a look and found some I liked, Chad.
I wish I could have been there to see you magooing around trying to find your glasses with the employee. That would have been amazing. But it actually worked out better for you. I was concerned that you decided not to get a gift for your wife on Valentine's Day. But look, I don't know how much you paid for the glasses, but I do know how you operate. You're a man with very specific tastes in life. I'm guessing that this place where you go in the Pearl to get your glasses is not exactly a discount rack, right?
It's not Lens Crafters. It's actually a very high-end place. And the reason I go there, number one, they do have really nice frames. Number two, great people that run it, a husband and a wife, and they've always been good to me. I've been buying there for years. And, I have several pairs of glasses. It wasn't like I was caught without glasses. I'm wearing these blue ones today. You're going to get sick of them for the next 2 weeks because my new ones won't come in for a couple weeks. But I've always liked these. It's just these are the kind of glasses you can't really wear every day. People start commenting on them. So I just decided that I better get something nice again. And I am actually now on YouTube, so I have to look good every day. And I think this is a nice way. My gift to my wife for Valentine's Day is getting to see me in new glasses.
That's very nice. I'm concerned. Were you able to drive home without your glasses last night? Because I've heard, and again, this is all out of my concern, but I've heard your driving at this stage might be a little bit shaky at best. So were you able to make it home okay? Are your glasses are you near or farsighted?
Well, actually, I'm not Mr. Magoo. I can see fine, except when I'm trying to read
something.
Goodness. Then it becomes problematic. And by the way, when I was trying frames on today, I did try on some Mr. Magoo glasses. They're round frames, and I was kind of a cross between Harry Potter and Mr. Magoo, which is not a good look. And so I settled on something that's, I think, kind of young and hip, like I am. So you'll see him in a couple weeks. We'll have a grand unveiling.
I hope your glasses that broke didn't wind up in someone's burrito or Mexi-Meld or wherever the heck they may be, man. Hopefully someone did dispose of those. That could be kind of scary. But Godfather,
yeah.
Well, good. It's actually better now based on the place where you went to get your glasses. It all worked out better that you didn't buy a Valentine's Day gift because that would have really put you in the hole big time. So you're good. You're good.
These set me back a few bucks. Let's just put it that way.
You made me happy because when I called you this morning, you told me that your wife, you gave me thanks from your wife because you guys actually watched that documentary last night on Netflix, the We Are the World documentary, which goes behind the song and how it was made with all the stars and stuff. What were a couple of the things that jumped out at you in that documentary?
Yeah, first of all, if anybody's looking for it, I think it's called The Biggest Night in Pop, something like that. You forget, Chad, it's been so long now, you forget the star power in that video. It's incredible how many big-time singers they had putting that song together. And the other thing I never knew, Chad, the ordeal it was to put it all together. What an incredible night that must have been.
Yeah, no doubt. You had Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson, and Quincy Jones, who were the brains behind the operation. But just to name a few of the stars who were there, Huey Lewis, Cyndi Lauper, Kim Carnes, Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen, Kenny Rogers. I mean, the whole list. All of the top pop artists of that era were there. And there were a couple of parts that I thought were hilarious. One, Cyndi Lauper having to remove jewelry because it was clanking and being picked up on the mic. And it took her, Huey Lewis, and Kim Carnes forever to nail their part. And when they finally got it, it sounded really good. I do love Stevie Wonder needing to go to the restroom and Ray Charles stepping up to say, "Don't worry, I got you. I'll show you. I'll show you where it's at." You had the blind leading the blind, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then Waylon Jennings, who's the man behind the theme song for Dukes of Hazzard, he was like, "Yeah, I'm out of here." He knew that his voice and the way he operated didn't fit that song, and he just bolted. He jumped ship. Amazing.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, the only way they could get that many stars together would be to have it in Hollywood on the same night as the American Music Awards, and there were a lot of these people who were in town for that, and so they had it. They started around 10 o'clock, right? Wasn't that it, Chad? They didn't get out of there till like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Amazing. They were there all freaking night. It was just crazy. Hall & Oates were there. I was surprised that Oates got in, but they were there. Sheila E. was there, but they didn't care about her. They just wanted her because she was tight with Prince.
Yeah.
And they kept asking her, like, "Hey, you think Prince is going to be here?" So they used her to get Prince. Yeah, it was wild. That's amazing. I'm glad you guys checked it out, man. It's Netflix. There's so many good documentaries on so many different things that we grew up with now. It's just nice to have access to it. I like watching them. As I get older, I like knowing the story behind the story, like how things are made, how things came together. Like I just learned yesterday that Sylvester Stallone was the original guy who was going to be the Beverly Hills Cop before Eddie Murphy.
Wow.
If you can believe that. I had no idea. Stallone was the guy. And he rearranged his script. He rewrote the script, which included more action and to adapt to his speaking style. And it took the budget from $14 million to $20 million. And so they had a polite conversation with him, decided to pivot, and they went to Eddie Murphy, and that's how that came to be. But Murphy was not the first choice. And up until that time, there had not been a successful like action comedy with that type of movie. And so it was kind of a bit of a risky deal. And you know how those big companies are. They're very they're scared about risking a big budget on a movie that they're not certain is going to nail, and that's why they're worried about casting and making sure that a star can hit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I had no idea.
The documentary, Chad, was really successful for two reasons. Number one, I could not believe they had original footage through the whole process showing this thing happening, and the frustration at times getting people to sing the right words or to get them to hit the right notes and all of that with that many superstars in the room. It was incredible. And the other thing was they went back with as many people as they could who were still living to talk to them about the whole process. It made, I mean, like Huey Lewis was terrific. A lot of the insight he had. It was really a nice job of putting it all together in a nice package.
I think it was Diana Ross who went out of her way to tell Daryl Hall that she really appreciated his music and the way he sang. And I was thinking for him, a blue-eyed soul guy, that had to make him happy to hear from one of the legends. Like, hey, I appreciate and respect what you do. I thought that was cool. So good. I'm glad you guys watched it. We've got the Trailblazers and Timberwolves coming up at 7. Godfather, we're going to talk to Flex Cruz here in a couple of minutes. Really bizarre to see Isaiah Stewart attack, not on the court, but behind the scenes at the arena, attack Drew Eubanks. Have you ever heard of anything like that happening during your time covering the NBA?
I can't really recall. I know there have been times after games where players attempted in the tunnel to get to an opponent, but they were always stopped by security or teammates or whatever. I just don't recall anything like this. And really, until we see the footage, we're not really going to know what happened. But I thought it was interesting that the Suns all say it was without provocation, and they actually called in the Phoenix police, who took Stewart into custody, I guess. That's what I've heard.
He crazy, Godfather. He crazy.
He crazy for sure. Yeah.
All right, that's where we're going to go next. We're going to head down to Phoenix. Felix Flex Cruz, NBA insider, and I'm sure he's got some insight. So we'll talk with him next. You'll find Dwight on X, at Dwight Jaynes. You'll find me there at Chad and Rip City. You got the Rip City Drive here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, our next guest is blowing up. He's the co-host and insider for Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Sports, the Coast to Coast podcast, the Suns pre- and post-game show. He's part of the CBS Sports Arizona Family Suns Insider and also Fox 10 Phoenix Suns Insider. This guy is everywhere. You can follow him on X at Flex from Jersey. He is back. Felix Flex Cruz. Flex, my brother, man. It's great to have you back on the show. What's up?
My brother, Chad. Been too long. Is Godfather here?
Yeah,
He is.
you bet.
Godfather. Love you guys, man. What's up? Been a long time. I miss y'all.
Too long.
Oh, dude. I know it's been too long, man. Good to talk to you. I'm very happy to see you blowing up and getting things done. Let's go ahead and start with this. What do you know about Isaiah Stewart attacking Drew Eubanks, which resulted in his arrest?
Yeah, that was a crazy incident. I was in the building yesterday, and it started to circulate that there was an incident, like right around the parking area going into the tunnel. And, my understanding is that, you're getting two sides of the story. One side is Drew Eubanks said they had a couple words, and they went chest to chest, and before you know it, Isaiah Stewart sucker punched him. And then Isaiah Stewart is saying, well, there were some words that were exchanged, and we don't know what those words were and how that transpired. But I also believe that there was a little bit of an incident when they played back in November, back in Detroit earlier in the year, that may have kind of escalated from the court into the next meeting, and they just happened to have a chance encounter entering the arena yesterday. And it got crazy, and so he was charged. He was arrested. He was released, and now the NBA is going to investigate and see what's going on. But yeah, man, these guys are they're doing some crazy stuff out there, man. You got to keep it between the lines. It's a brotherhood. These guys all compete. You try to stay away from that stuff. But it gets chirpy sometimes. So Drew Eubanks, I heard, took the punch like a man. And I think they move on, man.
Hey, Flex, I've heard there may be video. Are you hearing anything about video?
Yes, 100%, unequivocally. There's clear video. I spoke to someone that confirmed that. And I was told, like I said, Drew took the punch like a man because the video is going to show that. Yeah, he took the punch, and there was nothing too much afterwards. But Phoenix does have a video. They submitted it to the NBA, and the local authorities are looking at that. What I'm interested in is, you have the video, but sometimes you're able to get some volume, sometimes not. And so, to the defense of Isaiah Stewart, there's no defense, but his part of the story is saying there were some words exchanged that were extremely inappropriate, and that's how it got to that. So it's going to be interesting to see if there was anyone that caught volume of what happened. But in any case, yeah, there's definitely video. I wouldn't be a Godfather. You know how this world is. I wouldn't be surprised if that video is on TMZ in about an hour. So
You're right.
We'll
That's
be seeing
true.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be seeing it.
We're talking with Felix Flex Cruz, who is a Suns insider here on the Rip City Drive. One more question about Eubanks. How do you think the NBA will handle this matter, especially for a guy like Stewart, who has been a little bit wild in the past?
Yeah, so he had the incident with LeBron. We saw how that played out. Here's my thing, Chad, is you had the incident with Draymond in practice with Jordan Poole. You have an incident in a tunnel of a basketball arena where you got these incidents that are happening between players. And, for instance, I think Isaiah Stewart signed a $68 million contract this summer. When you start to sign $60, $70, $80 million contracts, if the NBA fines them 5 games and $100,000, yeah, that's real money. And that's a real, those are 5 real games. But I think it's got to get to the point where if they really want these guys to behave and they really want these guys to get the message, they've got to take it a little bit further. They've got to make these guys really think about doing things like that. And it takes me back to a old school game. Back in '92, the Suns and the Knicks had a fight at halftime where everyone came on the court. I think Greg Anthony was in street clothes, and he punched Kevin Johnson. And that led to the NBA having that, no tolerance coming off the bench rule. And you see how that changed the NBA as a whole going forward. So I think they have to take it to the next level and say, this is the line. And if you cross the line, you may be looking at a 20-game suspension. You may be looking at a portion of your contract for the year. I think that'll get these guys to really understand it, because when you're making the amount of money they're making, sometimes $50,000, $100,000 fines, they're just not going to get it, and then you see the repeat offenders. So I'm hoping they're a little bit, they draw a line, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 5-game, $100,000 suspension, something like that.
Hey, Flex, I noticed that Bradley Bill seems to have another little injury. I think this one's a hamstring injury. How serious is that? And is there any concern over his availability now for a while?
No, actually, I was in the arena last night. I checked up on the Brad Beal situation. I'm told it's a very minor strain. It actually happened earlier in the game. It happened like right at the first couple of minutes of the game, and then he took a jump shot, and it kind of aggravated. But I was told it's a minor strain. The test came back clean, and I expect he could probably play on the 22nd coming off the All-Star break against Dallas. But in any case, even if it's a game or two, I think he dodged a bullet. He's also coming off of a broken nose. And so I think the plan is to reset his nose potentially during the All-Star break and let the hammy heal. So if you're going to have a tight hammy or a minor strain in the hammy, the best time to do it is right before the All-Star break. So he kind of dodged the bullet. But I anticipate he's going to be fine. I'm getting no information that it's major.
Hey, Flex, what do you think of Bronny's play at USC? And with that, do you think a team will make a run at him to have a shot at landing LeBron, potentially next year?
I do, Chad. I do. I'm going to be honest. You guys know I'm a basketball junkie. I watch high school ball. I watch college ball. I watch NBA ball. There's nothing about Bronny James that tells me he's ready to be an NBA player. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's not a shot at the kid.
Yeah.
He's a great kid, and he works hard, and he's had a lot of trials and tribulations, especially this year. And I'm happy he's able to overcome that stuff. But this is a different level, and you have to be worthy of playing in the NBA. You just don't want to get a ticket to the NBA because, your dad is LeBron James, and I don't think he wants that. But if I were drafting, if I were a team in the first or the second round, he wouldn't be on my board. He just wouldn't be on my board. I do not think that kid is ready for the NBA. I think the best thing for him to do is go back to USC, hone his game, get bigger, get stronger, get faster, and then get into the NBA on your own accord. That would be the advice I give him. But I do believe that LeBron James' fascination with playing with his son and his ability to opt out of a $51 million contract with the amount of money LeBron has made and the point in his career he's at, I would not be shocked one bit if a team takes a flyer on Bronny James and fulfills LeBron James's dream of playing with his son. So this is going to be a spicy off season because of that. And don't for 1 minute think that the NBA making the draft a 2-day draft doesn't have something to do with that.
Never thought of that. Hey, I also wanted to ask you, we need an update on the Suns from you, Flex. You're pretty high on them in the preseason and all. How do they fit into the hierarchy of the Western Conference right now?
Yeah, they're starting to get it together, Goff. That's a great question. Earlier in the year, this is a team that dealt with a ton of injuries. Brad Beal missed a ton of games. The big three at one point, half the season had passed and they hadn't played one game together. And so if you look at what they're doing since Christmas, there's no team in basketball that has more wins than the Phoenix Suns since the Christmas game against the Dallas Mavericks. They're starting to stack wins together. They're staying healthier. Brad is a little bit of an outlier with the other day, but they've been healthier. The addition of Royce O'Neal and Thaddeus Young allows them to play small ball now, potentially KD at the 5, and they can switch everything. And so now you're protecting Nurk against certain matchups. So I like where they're going, Godfather. I really do. I think there is a certain thing of peaking too early. And we've seen the Suns do that in the past. Just a couple of years ago, they won 64 games. They were the best team in basketball through the entire ride, and then they caught a flat tire against the Mavericks. So, this is a team. This is a team that I think is experienced in that way of, hey, we've done the peaking early thing, but it's important to peak at the right time. And they're playing some of the best basketball. I can tell you right now, they're top 10. They're the number 1 offensive team since Christmas, and I think they're up to top 7 defensively since Christmas. And so they're starting to show evidence of a team that really can get it together and make some noise. And I wouldn't want to be an opposing team having to deal with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Brad Beal in a 7-game series. So I'm still high on them. They got some things to work on, but they're definitely a lot better than where they started. And I think they're, five games separate 6 teams in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
And so these next 25, 30 games are going to be monumental for the standings and how the Phoenix Suns want to match up when they get in.
Hey, Flex, you mentioned Nurk. What are your thoughts on Nurkic in year one with the Suns?
I love Nurk, man. I mean, Nurk is a glue guy. He's a connector. He's a guy that is extremely underrated as a passer. And I'll tell you guys a funny stat. Nurk has missed 4 games this year. The Suns are 0-4. Okay, so men lie, women lie, numbers don't, right? And so you want to talk about use of Nurkic, look at his impact on the court. When he's not on the court for the Phoenix Suns, they lose basketball games. And so he has a unique way to connect the offense with Kevin and Devin and Brad, and especially when you stagger the minutes. He's a high basketball IQ guy. He's not going to do these special things defensively. He's very limited. And that's my biggest problem going into the playoffs if we have certain matchups. I think we played Sabonis the other night. Sabonis, the Kings had 72 points in the paint. And so they were attacking that matchup all night. And those are the things that give me a little bit of, caution with Nurkic. But for the most part, he's been exactly as advertised. Just a great locker room guy, a great connector, a glue guy. And he's going to have an opportunity to really help this team in the playoffs depending on the matchup.
Okay, if we're going to talk about Nurk, it's only fair to talk about DeAndre Ayton. I figure you're probably monitoring his play in Portland, which has been very good here of late. What do you think of that?
Listen, I've always loved DeAndre. I think the last game he had, 22 and 16 maybe, the last couple games ago.
That's correct.
Yeah, DeAndre, I monitor him. I love DeAndre. I think he gets a bad rap sometimes. I mean, I know he wants to do well. I know he wants to play well. His physical attributes are some of the best on planet Earth. I mean, there's not too many people that are as gifted as DeAndre Ayton. Just a matter of tuning things out and keeping it consistent. The one thing I would challenge DeAndre Ayton is to start to stack these games in the sense where, you may have 1 or 2 off nights every 10 games, as opposed to having a couple good games and then one of those games where people are easy to question his effort or his focus or awareness in a basketball game. And so I think that's all between the ears, Godfather. These are things that are very correctable. He's still young. I think DeAndre's a phenomenal talent, and I think DeAndre cares, and I think he works hard. And I think he's going through a little bit of a developmental phase with this team that's kind of rebuilding and shuffling the deck with some of these new tools and young ball players y'all got. But I think if you stay with DeAndre and you stick with him and you let him evolve, I still believe he's got number 1 potential talent in DeAndre Ayton. So I'm happy for him, and I'm happy that he's been playing good and he's stacking up some games because DeAndre's a heck of a ball player.
We're talking with NBA insider Felix Flex Cruz here on the Rip City Drive. Well, we're trying to figure out OKC and Minnesota. Are they legitimate Western Conference contenders, or will it come down to Denver, the Clippers, and the Suns?
Yeah, you see, I was having that conversation with someone in the arena yesterday. I'm going to be honest, man. I do not think that Minnesota and OKC are real threats. I actually think they're being hunted. I think there are teams in the Western Conference that are looking at the standings and saying, I wouldn't mind that first-round matchup. I wouldn't mind Minnesota. I wouldn't mind OKC. They're good basketball teams, but they kind of remind me a little bit of the Sacramento Kings last year. A nice, fun story. Well coached, good talent, but not quite ready to make that step. And if you take a look at what Sacramento's doing, they're kind of coming back to earth because of the style of play and the way they do things. I do not think Minnesota and OKC are real. I do think the Clippers, the Nuggets, and the Suns are probably the 3 biggest threats in the Western Conference, but all 3 of them have to stay healthy. Every single one of those teams, if they have one injury, they're so top-heavy. Denver is a little bit more balanced, but I still believe if they lose anyone like Murray or Michael Porter or Aaron Gordon, they can be in trouble. The same thing with the Suns, and we already know that the 3 in L.A. with the Clippers. Those guys have had injuries their whole career. So it's going to be a war of attrition for those three teams. And I think the other two teams are a little wet behind the ears, guys, still, for them to come out of the Western Conference.
You're making a lot of sense today, Flex. I don't know what's going on, but you really are. I want to know from you now. Let's shift over to the Eastern Conference. Do you think Doc Rivers can solve the defensive problems that Milwaukee's had?
I do not. I do not, Godfather. I do not like that match at all. I do think Milwaukee is going to figure it out, though. I think there's still a part of that team that makes me feel like they're still in that developmental phase. I think Giannis is still learning how to operate with Damian Lillard. I think Dame is still learning how to operate with Giannis. And I think they're kind of the Phoenix Suns out east. I think they're a team that everyone is saying, hey, man, I don't want to match up with those guys in the playoffs, but they're still figuring it out. So right now it doesn't look great, but I do think there's an opportunity for them to start to figure things out in these last 25, 30 games. But as far as defense, you nailed it. That's going to be their Achilles heel, and that's why I didn't like the deal from the beginning. I love Damian Lillard. I've been on this show a bunch of times with you guys, and I've talked about Dame being my guy. But the truth of the matter is, in basketball, when you're building a team and you're looking for continuity, chemistry, and the long grind of winning the championship, a guy like Drew Holiday is just too good to lose. And so I always thought this was a lateral move at best because you lose so much defense and continuity. And so I hope they do well for Dame's sake, but I don't like their defense, and I think that's going to be their Achilles heel in the East come playoffs.
All right, Flex, we got one more question for you in the East. I mean, Boston right now looks like they're clearly the best team, but what about the Knicks? Can they challenge? Are they pretenders, or what are you seeing from the Knicks?
Man, that's a great question because, my Knicks, I'm not a Knicks fan, but I'm from New York and New Jersey, so I got a lot of people that I talk to and root for the Knicks. They're the wild card for me. They're the dark horse. To me right now, the Knicks are a team that they can beat anyone or can lose to anyone, if that makes any sense. They're one of those mystery teams that literally can beat anyone on any given night, but can also roll up into a gym and lose to anyone on any given night. So I haven't quite figured out if they're pretenders or contenders. I'm going to lean towards pretenders because I just believe that Boston is that good, and then we still got to see what happens with Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. I think the top three teams in the East are as follow. I think you got the Boston Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Philadelphia 76ers with a healthy Joel Embiid. Without Joel Embiid, it changes everything. And I think the Knicks and the Cavaliers are on that bubble fighting for that 4 or 5 spot. Both teams are impressive. Both teams can win series. I don't know if they can come out the East, though.
His name's Felix Flex Cruz, co-host and insider of Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Sports, the Coast to Coast podcast. Also the Suns pre- and post-game show, CBS Sports Arizona, the Family Suns Insider, and, of course, Fox 10 down in Phoenix. Hey, Flex, we love you, man. Enjoy the All-Star break, buddy, and we'll catch up soon. You're the man.
Yeah.
Hey, I love you guys more. I can't wait to get out there in studio with you guys and chop it up, man. Thank you. Enjoy the All-Star game, and I'm always here for you.
Yeah! There you go.
Yeah.
Felix Flex Cruz here on the Rip City Drive.
He killed it today.
He said, quote, Drew Eubanks took his punch like a man.
That's a nice little drop that we ought to save, He took it
But
like a man.
But you know how that is with guys like Drew Eubanks, similar to what Zach Collins and his dad used to always teach him, right? Like, you can't back down and you got to show toughness because guys are going to come at you, whether you're on the court or not, I guess.
Yeah. I think it takes great restraint to take a punch like that and not retaliate.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, I'll ask the Godfather, what Chauncey will do tonight in Game 2 against Minnesota. They were well prepared for Tuesday's game, but couldn't get over the hump. So what do you do tonight to counter? We'll talk about that next. All right, coming up at 4 o'clock, Dwight and I will get into the Kansas City Chiefs' secret weapon, something the 49ers should probably invest in based on what we saw in the Super Bowl this past week. Tonight, the Trailblazers are going to play the second of two against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And, Dwight, yesterday you were telling me how you were impressed with the preparation that Billups and his staff put into the game with the way that the guys were able to attack Rudy Gobert. When you have success like they did and didn't get over the hump because of that fourth quarter run, what's the approach tonight for Coach Billups? How do you handle that?
Well, Chad, the temptation is to try and make a lot of changes just because you're playing the same team again. And I don't think they need to do that. I think their approach was very sound. What they really need to do is just shoot the ball a little bit better. They can't really withstand a 5 for 17 game from Jeremy Grant. That hurts because, he's going to probably take a lot of shots. And they also suffered through a 6 for 19 from Anthony Simons. If just those two guys shoot the ball better, they got a chance. I would say offensively, look at what you did well, because that's what the other team's going to focus on stopping. So you might want to tweak that just a little bit, change a read or a roll or something you're doing with particular sets that work for you. But otherwise, take the same approach, attack the basket, dish off if you see Rudy coming, and don't be afraid to go at him. Better to go at him than away from him. Shoot the ball a little bit better and you're in the game, I think. At least that's the way it turned out the last game.
I would guess DeAndre Ayton's got to feel pretty good going into the game tonight. He's coming off that big performance, 22 points, 16 rebounds. But after you got to look at him on Tuesday with the way he was able to get to his spots and knock down that mid-range jumper, like he's got to feel good with this matchup now, knowing he's going to have some success. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts up another big night tonight.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, except you can expect Minnesota to maybe tweak their defense with him a little bit. You can't keep giving him those mid-rangers from around the elbow and the free throw line. That's just not going to work. He's going to make those shots on you all night. So I would say you'll be able to tell real early what the strategy would be with Ayton. But I would suspect Minnesota, being the best defensive team in the league, is going to take a little different approach with DA.
I guess we may see Tamani Kamara in that starting lineup again, right? Having him on the floor with Anthony Edwards out there, probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, defended okay and was 5 for 7 from the field, Chad. I thought he had a good game for a guy who hasn't had the run lately that he got earlier in the season. So, everybody talks about the injuries, but the injuries are opportunities for other players, and he's taking his shot right now. You see Thibault getting that started off guard. He went he actually went 0 for 5 in the game Tuesday. Wouldn't be surprised. There's a little hint there. Chauncey talked about maybe we'll start seeing Simons and Henderson together a little more. I wonder if we might see them together in the starting lineup tonight.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Here's what Billups had to say about Anthony Edwards after the game on Tuesday when he dropped 41 points. He was on fire.
He's a special talent. I love how he competes. People don't give him the credit, but he can really guard. His offense is so good that people don't talk about that. When he wants to lock in, he can really guard the ball. He has he's mean out there, which is beautiful, which is one of the things that I also love about Scoop. He's tough and he's mean out there. But yeah, Ant has that. He's one of the tougher guys to guard in the league.
All right, there's Bill. So Anthony Edwards tonight. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I did want to go back to a conversation we had yesterday in regards to Belichick potentially looking at maybe being the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, Godfather.
Yeah.
And the one thing I had forgotten when I laughed at the idea, because I'm like, the thought of Belichick with 6 championships as a head coach, being someone's subordinate and being the defensive coordinator seems crazy on the surface to me, but I had forgotten in my mind in the moment. The one thing that I do know about Belichick is that he has a very good relationship with Mike Shanahan and also Kyle Shanahan. Like, they're really close, and they've always been connected well over the course of time that they've been in the league. So let's say that Belichick took that role and the 49ers went on to win a championship and he was the man behind that defense. Would that help him at all in terms of wanting to get back in the game as a head coach for one more run? Would he benefit from that at all?
I think he would, Chad. I definitely think so because one of the factors keeping him out of the game right now is his ability to relate to the younger players. You know, and I think there's a perception, maybe true, maybe not, that he's not relating to them. He's not getting his message across. They don't want a grumpy old guy like that coaching them. But if he can come back and make that defense a winning defense, well, it is a winning defense, a championship defense. I think that's real good for him. You know, the other candidate I thought about, Chad, after we were talking about it, too late, I was off the air, but what about Mike Vrabel? Do you think he'd come back in a subordinate role like that?
He might. Yeah, he might because he may just not want to be away from the game. You know that?
Yeah.
Maybe that will come down to the same thing for Belichick. Maybe their desire to be on the field and coaching is so great. The advantage of having two guys like that, especially Belichick, because of his time in the league, like he probably knows the 49ers personnel and what they have defensively as well as the 49er coaching staff because he studies all these players so much and he knows what everyone is capable of.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is the transition for him, same thing for Vrabel too with his work habits and the way he prepares and, you know, his energy and his understanding. I think he would be able to mesh well with a guy like Kyle Shanahan, so I think that might work. I'm intrigued by it.
You know, it's taking them a little while to select that position. And that's where you might believe, well, you know, give Bill Belichick a little time to mull it over or give Vrabel some time to think about it. And if you're going to bring a guy like that into, it's going to take a little time to negotiate a contract because either one of them is going to want a lot of money to come in.
Yeah. That's a premium price there for your defensive coordinator. But man, that would be interesting. It would be fun because Belichick, you know how guys like that operate. He would do exactly what everyone says he wouldn't be able to do. He would go in and probably just nail it and be able to get those guys in a position. The reason why it'd be great to have a guy like that on your staff, obviously, is with the experience and the understanding how to deal with different situations. But more importantly, to take guys, understand their talents, and then plug them into the best position to where they can have the most success. That's one of his unique talents. He can find a guy and say, you're better in this spot, and I'll get more out of you from this spot, and he can change guys around. He's been doing that for years with the defensive players.
Yeah.
He's really good at that. He's got a knack for it.
Yeah, and he's the great thing, you talked about him earlier, he's seen it all, Chad. I don't think anybody's doing anything in the league that he hasn't already seen. And so the next step is just, what can I do to stop that, you know, or to help against that? And I think you'd see them a lot more organized defensively. I think they would be better prepared. Preparation is his thing. They'd be really well prepared.
And these coaches, remember we were talking to Todd Lebo from Kansas City on Tuesday. These coaches, that's all they know, man. Most of them, that's all they do. Like Andy Reid, remember he's got the vacation house out there on the beach in California. He and his wife go out there to take time to get away, and he's up in his little office looking at film, breaking down plays, and preparing for the next season. They can't get away from it, man. It's in their blood. They're addicted to football. They're crazy.
Yep.
I can't wait to see the video. When's TMZ going to drop that video on Isaiah Stewart and Eubanks?
It's got to happen soon. It can't be kept away for very long, I would assume.
Someone's trying to get their hands on that video because they get a big payday from TMZ. You know they want that, man.
That's right. That's what happened in Golden State with a bunch.
Yeah.
Somebody got paid off.
Right. When we come back on the Rip City Drive, we'll talk about the Chiefs' secret weapon and how it paid dividends in the Super Bowl this past Sunday. Dwight's here. I'm here. Michael Shacker. Game day is coming up live from Motor Center at 4:30. Tip-off tonight with the Minnesota Timberwolves at 7 here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, what's going on, my friends? Now 4 o'clock, the Trailblazers play their final game before the All-Star break tonight. Minnesota's in town. Tip-off at 7. Game day starts at 4:30. I'll be live from Moda Center. Malcolm Brogdon is out with the elbow tendonitis. Scoot listed as probable. Clippers forward P.J. Tucker fined $75,000 for expressing his desire to be traded. From the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks have informed Geno Smith he will remain on the roster this week, so he'll have access to $12.7 million fully guaranteed. The team could still trade him before March 18th. Elsewhere, the Bears have released veterans Cody Whitehair and Eddie Jackson. Got more of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now. All right, Godfather, it's not too often I get the on-air diagnosis from a listener, but my man Sean is reaching out to me today, concerned about my energy level, says today's show is a snoozer, and then he asked me, have you seen your nutritionist lately? Something could be off balance. Maybe some meditation could help. I love on-air diagnosis, you know, so.
Yeah. I don't see any difference in your energy level. And nobody takes care of themselves as well as you do. I would never worry about, anything about you and your nutrition. My goodness.
I've got plenty of issues, and I don't have time, enough time in the day to be able to list all of them. But the one thing that I'm certain of, the one thing I take pride in is my exercise and my nutrition and my supplementation. Like, I take more vitamins than the average human being. My food intake is spot on pretty much day to day, and my exercise, my workout yesterday was phenomenal. So, yeah, I feel pretty darn good about that. Now, I have plenty of other issues, but nutrition, exercise, that stuff is in line. So there you go. The on-air diagnosis. I love it, Godfather. It's the best.
Yeah,
we should do that sometime. We should do that. You and I should do that on the show sometime. We should offer up our on-air diagnoses of one another. That could actually make for some pretty darn good radio.
Yeah, not only physical but mental. Go ahead and psychoanalyze me from your couch. That would be good too.
I still think you and I going to visit Dr. Nancy and sitting on her couch now that she's changed careers. That could be fascinating too, to see what she could uncover about the relationship of the Godfather and Chad on the Rip City Drive. She wouldn't want to do it, but it would be fun.
I know. It would be a good bit, though, to go and sit down with her for a session and then replay it as a segment, because I'm sure she would point out a few weaknesses that might turn out to be rather funny.
No, that's good. It's good. All right. I'm looking at the Chiefs website right now, and they've got a guy on staff. His name is Mike Frazier. He's in his 11th season with the Chiefs as their statistical analysis coordinator, and the 21st year in the NFL. He arrived in Kansas City in 2013 after spending 10 seasons in the same role with the Philadelphia Eagles from 2003 to 2012. So this guy here, Mike Frazier, has got a long history with Andy Reid. Now, who was the Chiefs player that you heard talking about Frazier and the work that he did to get this team prepared for the Super Bowl?
Well, actually, I watched the Kelsey brothers talking about him. And when Travis mentioned Mike Frazier helping them get ready for the Super Bowl, Jason lit up. And they both lit up just talking about this guy. They said Andy Reid would bring him out to talk to the team and update them on some analytics, any rule changes, anything like that. And that when he came out, unlike a lot of analytics nerds, the players love this guy. They apparently, when he came out to speak, they'd all go, "Phrase!" and make a big fuss over him and make a big deal about it. He's a veteran guy who's been around football a long time. They respect him. And the story was, every week throughout the playoffs, he lectured the Chiefs on what the new overtime rules were, asked if there were any questions, went through the whole thing so that everybody understood totally what was going to happen. And from that, of course, came the strategy that they planned to employ if, in fact, they were going to go, say, second in the overtime.
You know what's fascinating about this is that I don't think Kyle Shanahan's taken enough heat for the fact that his players had no idea what was going on in that Super Bowl with the new overtime rules. I was listening to Julian Edelman today, who was obviously part of the Patriot teams, and Belichick's big philosophy during his time with the Patriots was very simple. He would bring in guys and people on staff to lecture and discuss all these different situations within the game. A free kick, it could be overtime rules, all these different scenarios. And what Belichick's belief was, and this made sense to me, he wanted to present the information to his players and prepare them for all these different situations so that it would be in their subconscious. So when the situation arrived and they had to go out there and execute, it was already in the subconscious, so it would allow the guys, and what Belichick thought, go out there and perform on a more free level and be able to get things done. And as I thought about that, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. You go over it, you study it, you prepare your players for it. They're not going to remember every detail, but a lot of the key parts of it will sink into their subconscious, so when that arrives, they won't be in a panic state. They'll understand what's going on because they've already gone over it before. Doesn't that make sense to you?
Of course. And I don't care what sport you're talking about. Smarter players are better players. There is no doubt in my mind in whatever sport. If these guys are smart players, understand the game, good IQ for their game, and good instincts, that leads to good instincts. It leads to smarter decisions, even on a very tiny level that might influence an outcome. It's the only way to go. And not educating your players is a good way to take a loss.
I'm just a big believer in having as many guys on staff that you can, not to overload guys with meaningless things, but if you can help guys out with different situations, if you can take pressure off because they have a better understanding of things, if you can bring guys together and help bring them a certain level of peace, I think that's a good idea. Like I was talking with the Blazers chaplain on Tuesday, and he told me that basically every player goes to chapel before the games, and then what he said was nice is that when you get teams like New Orleans in town or players that have been here before, they all go to chapel because it gives them a chance to catch up one-on-one and be able to speak to each other. So I think those type of meetings too, just getting guys together, being able to have conversation, to connect on a spiritual level, it helps them throughout their journey of the busy schedule in the NBA. So whether it's a chaplain or it's this analytics guy like Frazier, having guys in a position to where they understand situations, they're more at peace, and they can go out there and operate. Because isn't that what it's all about in the end, is to get guys on the floor or on the field and feel free and be able to go out there and just react to what they see without too much thinking. Because the more you think, the less likely you are to be able to use your athleticism and react. You don't want to be a step slow out there.
Yeah, it has to be second nature. It has to be drummed into you to the point where it's just you just read the situation and react to it without having to ponder it for 5 minutes. And I said this the next day. It would have been hilarious to see the 49ers score a touchdown and then run on the field thinking that they won the game, when in fact they did not. That would be funny.
And that would have been captured in a meme forever.
Oh, yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing? What are you doing? You didn't win?
Yeah.
We got to go back out there on the field. Can you imagine the emotional letdown? And I think that's probably the biggest argument for the criticism against Shanahan for that type of situation, is that we know in sports that teams can have emotional letdowns or there can be those type of situations. Can you imagine how hard it would be if you had to bring the guys off that high thinking they had just won the Super Bowl and then re-prepare them to go back out and get a stop on defense?
That's a
Seriously.
great point. That's a great point, Chad, because can you imagine, I mean, the kind of emotion you get from winning a Super Bowl, I mean, you're on cloud nine. And you run out there and you start celebrating, and it's like, where's the confetti? What's going on? Why hasn't the other team left the field? What's happening? The referees are still standing there holding the football. That would be a very, very difficult hole to climb out of, I think.
Yeah. The other thing Edelman said in regards to Kelsey yelling and bumping into Coach Reed, he said that it was not a good look, and it's not something he would recommend for young players. It's not okay to do that. But he did say that on NFL teams, there are certain players who have built up enough equity in terms of whether or not they're the heart and soul of the team, their playmaking, how good they are, the relationship they have with the coach, how much time they've had with the particular coach. Like, that he said that, when you're that type of player like Kelsey, who's a Hall of Famer and has put that much time in and has proven to be a big-time performer in those moments, that the coach will be more understanding in a spot like that with your heart and soul and emotional leader on the team who, trips his wires for a moment, that you can get past that. It's not okay, and you don't want it to happen, but it does happen in those spots because you have, those high-level athletes out there doing everything they can to compete emotionally, mentally, and physically at the highest level to go out there and win a championship. And that's how you get past it.
Yeah, talking about the incident with Kelsey and his coach, it reminds me, Chad, there is a lot of negativity now towards Kelsey, I think from some Swifties and from women and even men in general over his conduct in that game. Not only bumping the coach, but then afterwards with all the yelling and screaming on the podium and just all this. It kind of plays into that football stereotype of these guys being cavemen or something close to that. And I saw a meme on X right after the game with Taylor looking up at the podium at him, and the thought bubble above her was, gosh, I just realized our children are going to have a IQ of 40. And it's like, there are people, I think, who think less of him after seeing that. And it's like, maybe even less of her. It's like, she really likes this guy? He doesn't he doesn't look that likable,
Well, what I think, I think a lot of the hatred towards Kelsey is jealousy. I mean, heck, he's, arguably the greatest tight end of all time. He just won another championship. He's the guy that gets away with bumping into his boss and yelling at him on the sideline, and he's with the biggest female star on the planet. Like, I think a lot of guys are hating on him just because they're jealous, because the guy's living the ultimate life right now. I think it is. I think it's envy.
Yeah,
they
maybe
can't stand it that a guy like Kelsey's getting over like that.
Well, with guys, yeah, I don't think that's a factor with women. And I think women looking at that might have been a little turned off by it.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. But you know as well as I do that on the sideline, to hold these guys in a game like that, on that type of stage with that type of emotion, like it's those things are going to happen from time to time. It's not okay, but sports, what happens on the sideline or in the game with the emotions and stuff, like it's not normal life. You know what I'm saying? It's not like walking into the work building. It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. No, I'm just telling you what I saw. I think, look, a lot of people don't take those things into consideration, and they just see him as a person. It's like, whoa, what kind of guy is he? You got to admit, he and his brother are both they are a little over the top.
They are, but they're likable, too. I mean, their podcast is awesome. I like hearing them talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the guy is with Taylor Swift. He's probably the best tight end of all time. Just won a championship. Got to bump into his boss and yell at him on the sideline. They win, and then he's off partying on the Strip in Vegas. You can't make that stuff up. But Kyle Shanahan, the whole moral of this segment is that Kyle Shanahan needs to go out and find himself a Mike Frazier. Find a guy that can prepare your team for all situations so they're not confused at what the rules are when they're in overtime in a Super Bowl, Kyle.
I bet you Bill Belichick could help with that.
He could. His dad could have helped with that. His son, did you tell your players about the new overtime rules? I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, but you might want to bring that up.
Yeah.
All right, Rip City Drive. Game day's coming up at 4:30. Tip-off with the Timberwolves and Blazers at 7 here on 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, Godfather, when you were on the beat, what would you do during All-Star weekend and the break?
Well, for many years, I went to the game, Chad. That was just kind of what you did, particularly if you had players in the game. So I went to several of them, enjoyed most of them, particularly the ones in warm weather sites. But it was, those are the early days sometimes of these things like three-point contest, dunk contest, all of that. So it was a little more exciting to watch that Saturday stuff, if you will. So I did a lot of that. When I wasn't doing that, I would get out of town, go to Hawaii or Southern California, something like that, just to get some warm weather during the season.
That's not a bad idea. A little vacation time.
Yeah.
Get the heck out of Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
Here is what Billups had to say. A couple of different things on the roles of Ant and Scoot. Take a listen to this.
Thought it was good. You'll see a lot more of it coming up here now. The Scoot is feeling much better, and hopefully he's not too sore after playing this many minutes. I didn't think that I would play him this many tonight. I was keeping an eye on him out there. He got through it pretty good. He's just so tough you can never tell. Yeah, you'll be seeing them play together a lot more.
And then also he talked more specifically about, having different sets, different plays that they'll run with Ant on ball, Scoot on ball, and vice versa.
Tricky little balance because I think both guys are much better with the ball in their hands, which makes it tough. But also both guys also understand that they have to learn how to play without the ball in their hands because that other guy's going to be on the floor, particular right now. No Shade and no Malcolm. You got to have them both out there. So some sets, we like for Ant to initiate, and then some sets are much better when Scoot initiates. But both guys, I want them to both just be really aggressive the entire time. And no matter if you initiate or you get it on the second side, just be who you are. Just play and be aggressive the entire time.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm going to watch tonight, Dwight. When Ant and Scoot are on the floor together, I'm just going to pay attention to how they handle that, the roles, how they look off ball, on ball. That is my main reason for watching tonight.
Yeah, and I think he's giving you a little insight, too. If that's the objective, for them to kind of learn how to play together, you need to get them more time together. And I think I liked one thing Chauncey said about Scoot, and that was this. He said, I hope he came through the game okay. He's so tough, you can't really tell. Don't you love hearing your coach talk about how tough your players are, especially in today's NBA game? That being tough, that's a pretty good attribute in today's world.
Well, especially a guy like Chauncey Billups, who was tough. And so if he's complimenting you by saying you're tough, then you must be tough.
Yeah, you're meeting his standard of toughness. And that's a big deal. It really is. There's a lot of guys in the game now that aren't tough.
All right, the A Brew Fest is the beer tasting event of the year. You get to indulge your senses with hundreds of beers, seltzers, ciders, spirits, and so much more while celebrating the Pacific Northwest with delicious food, celebrity chef, dine-arounds, live entertainment, and so much more. It's coming up this weekend up at A Casino and Resort, and we have 2 pairs of tickets to give away right now, so we'll take the first 2 callers through. If you would like to go and check out the A Brewfest, call now, 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. It is your Brewfest. You take it over. 503-248-0620. We'll take the first 2 callers through. You get a pair of tickets for the A Brewfest. For more information on the event, you can go to alienatebrewfest.com. 503-248-0620. Call now. First 2 callers through get a pair of tickets for the A Brewfest. 503-248-0620 is the telephone number.
Tiger, talk to me.
Estacada! Love it. Love it. The pretzel guy's here, Godfather. The not spot guy is loading up his thing.
Did you get one?
I did not. I resisted temptation, but I may not be able to hold back tonight. But I resisted temptation. I just love giant soft pretzels so much. It's like my number 1 snack right now.
Hey, by the way,
as Sean and Sandy pointed out, I need to make sure that my nutrition is solid so I don't sound like a buffoon on air.
Yeah.
So I don't want to derail myself.
Yeah, don't eat too many pretzels.
But I think that is my number 1 snack right now. Like if I could choose one thing, It's like those pretzel bites or a big pretzel, fresh, hot, with the salt on it. Why someone eats a pretzel with no salt is beyond my understanding, but I am totally down with the salted big pretzel. The best. It's my favorite snack.
By the way, MLB just announced that Rob
Manfred
is going to retire in 2029.
I saw that, and
could we push that?
Can it be accelerated? Gosh, 5 more years of that buffoon. You got to deal with that guy for 5 more years. How much more damage can he do to baseball in 5 more years? But again, as much as I want to,
he's going to be trying hard.
As much as I want to criticize him, I got to give him props because the pitch count and the speed of the game. I mean, it was groundbreaking, and it does change the entire experience. I like it. I like what they've done.
Yeah,
it's a better game now, Godfather.
Yeah, the pitch clock has been the biggest deal they've added in 50 years, probably. It's been great for baseball.
Dude, it's been great, man. Less spinning, less ball scratching, and more play, and the games get done in a more expedient period of time. Yeah. I don't know. You know, a lot of people resisted that too, but now that you see the change, and then you can go and watch a game in person, and you're done in less than 3.5 hours, sometimes less than 3. That's money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Manfred, 5 more years. That's why a lot of people always think, I get this question all the time like you do. You think we'll get Major League Baseball in Portland? And I'm thinking, okay, so Manfred? Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, Manfred, do you trust that guy, Godfather, to get something done?
No, not to make a good decision either. He's made plenty of bad ones. And I worry about that guy with his hands all over the game because he's not a baseball guy.
Where's baseball going next? Vegas? And then where else after that?
I don't think they'll go to Vegas. I still think that thing's fallen through. I think Oakland's going to be back playing in the Oakland Coliseum this season and a few more after that, and then we'll see. I don't think the city of Las Vegas really wants them.
Well, I do know, my buddy who was in town last week, Cody, he works for the A's, and he told me that they will, in fact, be in the Coliseum for this year. But after this upcoming season, they have no idea where they're going to be. It could be Sacramento. Mm-hmm. It could be in a couple other spots. But I think this sounds like the final year for play in the Coliseum. That's it.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I think
you don't think they're going to be able to make it to Vegas?
No. I don't think so. I think they.
But why are you saying that though? Like, what are you hearing to lead you to believe that the A's won't be able to get that deal done in Vegas?
Well, the ballpark is the big issue, Chad, and the deal they have is falling through. It's just not going to work. The land parcel is not big enough. It's just not going to work. So they're going to have to find another spot. And the owner of the A's, Fisher, is an idiot. He can't put something like this together this big. He'll mess it up somehow. I think the first expansion city looks to me like it's going to be Nashville. I think Salt Lake City's in the running for a team, and I think if it's Salt Lake City or Portland, that Portland would get the nod. But we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
Well, I've got a problem with 2 potential ballparks. I don't want the one going out and taking over Red Tail and getting rid of a golf course, and I don't want the proposed site down in Vegas because it would wipe out the Tropicana and take away the free parking for when me and my boy Steve are down there trying to go hit an event. Man, everyone knows locally that the place to park is the Trop because they don't check and you get free parking there, and that's the best. Local knowledge is the best because you know where to go, where to park, and where not have to pay a bunch of money. I love that.
You park there when you're going to the football stadium?
Yeah, football stadium or to the MGM or to Mandalay if you're going to go see a show. Like the concert we're going to go see in March is at Mandalay. So the Trop is where you park because it's free. You don't get jacked.
What concert are you seeing down there?
Toto and Journey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Yeah.
All right, did we get our winners, Shacker? We're good there? All right, we got 2 winners for the Alien A Brew Fest. Blazers Game Day is coming up next. Tomorrow, full show starting at 3. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. And my man will be back. Godfather, enjoy your night, my friend.
See you tomorrow, Chad.
And don't break your glasses, man. Those things are spindy, so hold on to them tightly.
I'm trying.
All right, there's the Godfather. When we come back, live from Moda Center, it is Blazers Game Day as we get ready for the Timberwolves, the final game before the All-Star break here on 620 Rip City Radio. Well, good afternoon, my friends. This is Blazers Game Day. I am your host, Chad Doing, live here from Section 330 at the Pines, getting ready for the Timberwolves and Trailblazers. Tip-offs coming up at 7. I will be with you for the next 90 minutes up until 6 o'clock, and then we'll kick it over to Chris Burkhardt, who will have your Trailblazer pregame show across the Trailblazers radio network. Coming up on the show, we're going to go live to the podium at 5:15 and hear from Chauncey Billups as the Blazers get ready for the second of two against the Timberwolves. We'll have What's the Scoot, and we'll get the latest on Scoot Henderson, his role on the team now that he's back on the floor. Also, some compliments that Coach Billups had of him with his play in that game on Tuesday night, talking about his toughness. So we'll hear from Coach. We'll hear from Coach discussing the work of Chauncey Billups. We'll also get the latest from Anthony Simons, who is back in the mix and in the lineup on Tuesday, coming off the loss to Minnesota. If you want to hit me up on X, you can do so at Chad in Rip City. At Chad in Rip City, the telephone number is 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. Tip-off is coming up at 7. This is the final game for the Trailblazers before the All-Star break. They're going to play tonight, and then they won't have another game until a week from tomorrow, so 8 days off for the All-Star weekend and the break before they enter into the final stretch with about 28 games to go. 15 of those will be at Moda Center. You know, going into the game on Tuesday, we knew that they would get a much-needed shot in the arm with the return of Anthony Simons, with the return of Scoot, and, of course, Dwight. Much-needed help against a team who is the best in the West, the Minnesota Timberwolves, also the top team defensively in the NBA. And with their size, too, Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, they've got a lot of big guys. Naz Reid. They're a different type of team because they're doing it with their size. And a lot of teams in this league now are going small and looking to move and space the floor and shoot the three. But with Minnesota, a bit of old school in what they do. Now, they still got the guys who can kill you on the perimeter in Anthony Edwards, and he had a monster night. But Minnesota's big, and they showcased that on Tuesday night. The Blazers raced out of the gate in the game on Tuesday. They scored the first 7 points of the game thanks to Ayton, Simons, and a three from Tamani Kamara, who got the start. Minnesota then responded with a 24-10 run to take a 24-17 lead. With 3:20 left in the first, they would go on to have a 37-25 lead at the end of one. Anthony Edwards on fire out of the gate, 18 points in the first. Scoot led Portland with 7. Now in the second quarter, the Blazers trailed 42-30 with 9:24 left in the half, but responded with a 12-6 run, which featured some of the best ball movement we've seen all year. The Timberwolves called timeout, leading 48-42 with 4:21 remaining in the half. Minnesota would go on to have an 8-point lead at 59-51 at halftime. Simons led Portland with 12 in the first half. Ayton had 10 and 7 rebounds. Edwards finished the first half for Minnesota with 23 points. The big issue for Portland early in the game, 10 turnovers in the first half, and they shot 46%. Now in the third quarter, the Blazers came out on fire. A DeAndre Ayton jam capped off a 9-3 run to cut the deficit to 2 at 62-60 with 8:15 remaining in the third. Minnesota erupted out of a timeout on a 10-2 run, finished off by an Edwards 3, pushing the Minnesota advantage back to 10 at 72-62. And the quarter of runs continued. The Blazers ripped off an 11-1 run to tie the game at 73. Grant had a couple of threes during the stretch, and Ant with 1. The Timberwolves held an 84-83 lead heading into the fourth quarter. Ayton had 8 points and 8 rebounds in that third during the big run. I mean, he was involved, engaged, and dominating. So going into the fourth, you thought, okay, Portland's in a position to strike. They're playing good basketball. They're engaged. Their intensity on defense is there. They've got a chance. And then early in the fourth, the game was tied at 86. Minnesota exploded for a 16-4 run, taking a 12-point lead at 102-90. The Wolves would push that run to 18-4, and with that game over, the Blazers couldn't overcome the three-point barrage from Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He put the game away with 4 threes during that run in the fourth quarter, and Minnesota gets the win, 121-109. And after the game, Blazers coach Chauncey Billups talked about the loss.
Yeah, I thought we played well for the most part. First quarter just had too many turnovers. I thought that hurt us early. For the most part, we did what we wanted to try to do with them in the game, and we kept it We made the game most of the way, and then they got away from us in the fourth quarter, obviously. But the kid, Nikhil, hit some daggers, and I thought most of them were good D, contested shots. You know, he kid hit some big shots.
I would agree with that assessment. Sometimes better offense is going to win out, and Alexander was on fire. And they were dagger threes because Portland was doing everything they could to remain in the game, and every time down the floor during that stretch, the 18-4 run, it resulted in another three from Alexander Walker, and you're like, dang. And you could feel the crowd and the wind coming out of the sail, and it's like, man, that's what the three-point shot would do. In fact, that's something that came up last night. I listened to that Barstool link where they had that interview with Bird that was like 48 minutes. Larry Bird from when he was still playing back in like the early 90s, 48-minute interview, and he said one of his favorite things to do was late in the game when a team was down by one possession, he would come down and look for a three-point shot because he knew that mentally it would be very difficult for a team to overcome late in the game to hit them with a big three and push it to a 2 or 3 possession game. He would look for those type of spots, and it reminded me of what Nikhil Alexander-Walker did in that game with the big shooting. Now, the other thing to keep an eye on, and this popped up in the game on Tuesday, and we're going to see more of it tonight, but Ant and Scoot on the floor together. Take a listen to Coach Billups.
Thought it was good. You'll see a lot more of it coming up here now. You know, the Scoot is feeling much better, and hopefully he's not too sore after playing this many minutes. I didn't think that I would play him this many tonight. I was keeping an eye on him out there. He got through it pretty good. He's just so tough you can never tell. Yeah, you'll be seeing them play together a lot more.
All right, now in addition to that, Mike Richmond asked about when those two guys are on the floor, there were situations on Tuesday where they would flop roles. You know, sometimes, depending on the sets and the plays, Ant would run it. Sometimes it was Scoot. So what's the balance there, and how do you determine who's going to run the play or not? Here's what Coach had to say.
Tricky little balance because I think both guys are much better with the ball in their hands, which makes it tough. But also both guys also understand that they have to learn how to play without the ball in their hands because that other guy is going to be on the floor. You know, particular right now, no Shade and no Malcolm. You got to have them both out there. So some sets, you know, we like for Ant to initiate, and then some sets are much better when Scoot initiates. You know, but both guys, I want them to both just be really aggressive the entire time. And no matter if you initiate or you get it on the second side, just be who you are. Just play and be aggressive the entire time.
All right, two other things I want you to hear from Coach Billups. This here is on just overall development and some of the takeaways from the game.
I've always just been kind of talking about, you know, what we can continue to learn from and how we can continue to develop some chemistry. You know, I've said it. I mean, you look at D.A. D.A. has a big night tonight, I'm sorry. You know, 11 for 12, and just the chemistry that Scoot and him and Ant and him are developing has been pretty, it's been pretty neat to watch and see, you know. And this is against the best defense in the league, and maybe the best team right now in the league. So a lot of different things that we could take from, you know, and feel like you've got better tonight.
All right, I had this question come in from Duke, the UPS guy. He says, do you think Anthony Edwards should get some consideration for MVP this year? Most definitely. Best team in the West, best defensive team in the NBA. They're a contender, and they're playing terrific basketball. There's no doubt. And he showcased it with 41 points, 16 of 27 shooting. I mean, he was attacking the rim. He's got the range. He can shoot the three. He's got everything. There's nothing he can't do, and he's big and strong and long. And Billups talked about Edwards after the game. This sounds like he's describing an MVP-type player.
He's a special talent. I love how he competes. People don't give him the credit, but he can really guard. His offense is so good that people don't talk about that. When he wants to lock in, he can really guard the ball. You know, he has he's mean out there, you know, which is beautiful, you know, which is one of the things that I also love about Scoot. He's tough and he's mean out there. But yeah, Ant has that. He's one of the tougher guys to guard in the league.
All right, there you go. We are getting ready for the game tonight. The Blazers and Timberwolves tip-off is going to be at 7 o'clock here from Moda Center. And the Blazers will get one more crack at it before they head off into the sunset as they take off and get 8 days off for All-Star break, which is going to be good for them. All right, we'll come back here on game day, and when we do, we'll give you a scoreboard report. And then I've got a couple other things I want you to hear, including Anthony Simons. We're going to go to the podium at 5:15, and we will hear from Coach Billups and get his take on the situation. It looks like the team, Scoot will play, Ant's going to play tonight, and both Reef and Ayton are going to be available. So the only guy that's going to be missing in action will be Malcolm Brogdon, who's out with the elbow tendonitis. All right, we'll come back. We'll hear from Ant. It's game day. Tip-off's coming up at 7 here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time for What's the Scoot. Boy, Scoot Henderson, nice to see him back on the floor on Tuesday. He finished the game with 14 points and 9 assists and played really, really well. And Chauncey Billups has some good things to say about him after the game. In fact, here's Coach Billups talking about Scoot after the Blazers' 121-109 loss.
I just think for Scoot, the biggest thing that is the biggest difference from now and opening night is he understands what's going to happen out there. You know, he understands the coverages that he's going to be faced with. He's starting to play against these teams for the second and third time, so he's starting to understand personnel. His playmaking, as you can see, is starting to pick up. I think his confidence is picked way up. You know, and Scoot can go into these games and he knows that he can get where he wants to get on the floor. It's just a matter now of him knowing, you know, the particular teams and coverages, you know, knowing what he wants to do certain nights. Okay, these guys are going to go under the screen on me tonight. These guys like to down me on the side. These guys want to send it to the middle, like just figuring out what you want to do before the game even starts. He's starting to do some of those things. So you're just seeing the game kind of slow down a little bit for Scoot, and that's why you're seeing him have so much success.
Boy, that's nice. Nice to hear, and I would agree just watching him play. It's slowing down. He's playing with more confidence, getting to his spots. But most importantly, there was a possession in the first half where good ball movement produced an open look from downtown for Scoot. And I got a text from him, I think Dave Deckard, who said, who was that shot the ball? Was that Scoot? That was a professional three. He is clearly putting in individual work on his game, and we're seeing that come to fruition with his shot. Shooting a better percentage, the form on the catch and shoot and the pull-up looks better. He's just getting more comfortable out there, and he's so young. But again, as I've said time and time again, his attitude, his demeanor, his approach, the way he listens. Coach Billups has talked about his coachability. He's got all the different things you want makeup-wise in a young potential star, which is great. Now, the other thing to keep an eye on tonight is what we're going to see between him and Anthony Simons, and that's something that Billups talked about after the game on Tuesday.
Thought it was good. You'll see a lot more of it coming up here now. You know, the Scoot is feeling much better, and hopefully he's not too sore after playing this many minutes. I didn't think that I would play him this many tonight. I was keeping an eye on him out there. He got through it pretty good. He's just so tough you can never tell. Yeah, you'll be seeing them play together a lot more.
And then the bigger question is, you know, how do you decide who's going to run what set, the offense? Because, you know, Billups wants each of them to, you know, learn and continue to develop off ball. Here's what Coach Billups had to say in regard to that.
Tricky little balance because I think both guys are much better with the ball in their hands, which makes it tough. But also both guys also understand that they have to learn how to play without the ball in their hands because that other guy is going to be on the floor, you know, particular right now. No Shade and no Malcolm. You got to have them both out there. So some sets, you know, we like for Ant to initiate, and then some sets are much better when Scoot initiates. You know, but both guys, I want them to both just be really aggressive the entire time. And no matter if you initiate or you get it on the second side, just be who you are. Just play and be aggressive the entire time.
All right, so that's something to pay attention to tonight when Ant and Scoot are on the floor together. How do they handle being off ball? How does each player handle being on ball and initiating the offense? How are they moving without the basketball? And we've got to watch that development, and that's going to be critical. You know, again, down the stretch, after tonight, they're going to have 28 games remaining on the schedule. The development of Scoot Henderson is priority number one because he's a guy selected at number 3 in the draft last year that has to hit. You've got to cash in on that asset because it's so valuable, and you want him to become a big-time player. So I'm going to be watching his development, number one, but also the connection when Scoot's on the floor that he continues to develop with Ant and how those two guys, you know, learn how to play with one another, and also the connection between Scoot and DeAndre Ayton, you know, with the connection that they develop. I thought all the guards, you know, especially with Scoot and even Banton, did a good job of getting the big man involved, throwing lob passes, initiating the offense. There was some really good moments in that game on Tuesday, but, you know, again, player development is the most important thing, especially with the young guys, and one of them's out in Shaden Sharp. So I'm talking about Tamani, Jabari Walker, and, of course, Scoot Henderson. Outside of that, we want to see DeAndre Ayton continue to be engaged, aggressive, and highly productive, you know, as they continue to get a feel for him and how he fits with this team. how the team plays on both ends, what Chauncey wants them to do. Are they receiving the message, and are they able to go out there and execute? That's going to be important. And that's going to be what it's like, game to game, looking at development, seeing how the players continue to play. And not only that, but the coaching staff. Like, on Tuesday, give props to Phillips and his staff for the way they got guys prepared for that game and how they were going to attack the size of Minnesota, especially with Rudy Gobert. And Phillips talked about development and what he's looking for.
I've always just been kind of talking about, what we can continue to learn from and how we can continue to develop some chemistry. I've said it. I mean, you look at D.A. D.A. has a big night tonight, 11 for 12, and just the chemistry that Scoot and him and Ant and him are developing has been it's been pretty neat to watch and see, and this is against the best defense in the league and maybe the best team right now in the league. So a lot of different things that we could take from, and feel like you've got better tonight.
All right, as we get ready for action tonight, the Boston Celtics are atop the Eastern Conference, 6 games in front of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Milwaukee Bucks struggling a bit. They're now 8 games back, number 3. And the Knicks struggling, 4 straight losses for New York heading into the All-Star break. They're 10 games back. In the Western Conference, Minnesota remains atop the West. They're in town tonight, 1 game in front of Oklahoma City. The LA Clippers coming off their win last night in San Francisco over the Warriors. They're 1.5 back, and the Denver Nuggets sit 2.5 games back at 36-19. The Phoenix Suns playing good basketball of late. They've won 7 of 10. They've won back-to-back games. They're sitting there 5.5 back. The Pelicans also 5.5 back. And if you go all the way down to the Sacramento Kings, who are in 8th, 7 games separate the top spot in Minnesota all the way down to the Kings, who sit 8th in the West right now. And those 4 teams who are in the current play-in spots, Dallas, Sacramento, the Lakers, and the Warriors. And that's what we're looking at right now in the standings on both sides, East and West, as we get ready for the All-Star break. All right, we're going to step aside, and when we come back, we'll head down to the podium. We're going to hear from Chauncey Billups. It'll be time for the Coach's Corner. We'll hear from him as the Blazers get ready for this final game before the All-Star break. Chad Doing here live from Moda Center, and we're getting ready for the Blazers and Timberwolves tip-off coming up at 7. I'll kick it over to Chris Burkhardt, who will have the Trailblazer pregame show across the Trailblazers radio network at 6, and I'll be joining him on the network at 6:40 to talk some Blazers. All right, Chad doing live here from Modus Center. And as soon as Chauncey Billups starts talking to the press, we're going to head down to the Harry Glickman Center, and we'll hear from Chauncey Billups, get his pregame thoughts going into the game tonight. The Minnesota Timberwolves are in town. They sit atop the Western Conference, and the Blazers get one more shot at them before they'll all take off for 8 days to enjoy the All-Star break. So the final game tonight, only 3 games in action across the NBA tonight. The Blazers and Timberwolves, one of the games, which will come up live here from Modus Center at 7 o'clock. So the Blazers tonight, looking to continue what we saw on Tuesday, with the intensity level, the execution, and most importantly, we'll see what they get from Scoot Henderson and Anthony Simons. And my guess would be that he'll start probably Matisse Thybulle in the backcourt next to Ant. That'd be my guess. Maybe we'll see Ant and Scoot tonight. Billups did say we're going to see a lot more of it moving forward with the injury to Shaedon Sharpe. So I'm anxious to see how that unfolds. But more importantly, we're going to get a chance to see more of Scoot. And with the way he's played over the last few weeks, I'm excited about that. I mean, I just love watching him play. I like watching the development because his start to the year was brutal. I was concerned. I'm like, what's going on here? But slowly but surely, with his work and, the games, the experience, the practice, all the different things, we're seeing progress now as the game slows down for him. And I was talking to someone the other night, they were describing the G League. The problem with the G League is that the way it was described to me is it's like, organized rat ball, meaning that there's not as much structure in the G League that you might think. And, of course, the talent level compared to what you get in the NBA is not the same. So for a guy like Scoot Henderson to make that jump from G League to NBA, and all of a sudden you hit the floor in a structured, organized type game with tremendous athletes, I mean, that's going to be a big problem. All right, let's head down to the podium now where Chauncey Billups is speaking with the media.
Nah, I'm going to start Scoot, Ant, 2, Jeremy, D.A. Yeah.
What went into the decision to move Scoot back into the starting lineup?
I think the biggest thing, Sean, is he just deserves it, man. He deserves it. He's played really well. I even told him that today when I talked to him, like, my job for him, all year is I want to do the best I can in developing him, but I got to protect him too. And I thought when I made a decision to kind of bring him off the bench, he was really struggling, and I felt that he was just playing with so much pressure on him. So I got to protect him from that, And you take him off, and he's made so many advancements. He's just doing so good, And also, I just feel like as a young player, I want him to earn everything, that he gets. And he's played so well on both sides of the floor. And as I've said with y'all all the time, like the way he is I believe everything that I believe in, he's that. He's competitive. He's a good teammate. He cares. He's trying to get better. He guards. He does everything that I believe in. So I just want him to earn everything, and he's doing just that. So it's just that time, and I'm happy. I'm proud of him. But he's doing it. Not me.
A lot of young guys might pout. They come in as a starter and then get benched. He didn't. He just attacked it. Are you impressed with that, or is that overblown?
Hey, it's funny you say that, Aaron, because I told him that today. I said, bro, one of the things I've been most proud of and impressed by is, like, I took him out the lineup. He plays here. He don't play in the fourth, whatever. He has never changed how he is with me, with his teammates. He's the first guy jumping off the bench when somebody make a big shot or takes a charge. Like, he's just all about the right stuff, and I've been proud. I was very proud of that, with him. And he had plenty of reasons as a young 19-year-old dude. You had plenty of reasons to hang his head or pout a little bit. Just never did it, man.
He always seemed to get it, too, that when we would talk to him, he's like,
he understood it.
I didn't play well.
Yeah.
I didn't. So the fact that he's able to accept his shortcomings, obviously, is a part of his maturity as well, right?
He really does. And he's so mature for his age, and he allows me to coach him hard. I coach him hard, and I'm honest with him at all times. And I like to be that way. You know, the best coaches I played for were honest with me. So he's very coachable and things like that. So I've just been happy with his development. He's been playing very, very good.
Is it safe to assume that if this goes well tonight, that's going to be the case going forward, that he's going to stay?
Yeah. I mean, this is the way I want to, to be here. You know, I'm never the coach anyway to, like, if somebody play bad one night, take them out. I don't even do that in the game. You know, when people turn it over once or twice, I don't take them out right away. That's just a bad feeling. I remember feeling that way, so I don't even do that. So, no, I see this, being this way, for the rest of the season.
Coach, you had to be patient in your NBA career as things blossom, especially with the NBA championship. How has your patience been tested as a coach? Knowing you have talent, knowing you have a young team, dealing with injuries, how has it been tested as a coach?
A lot for sure, because anybody that know I'm all about winning and doing it and playing the right way, and when you in the process that we're in, it is painful, to lose the way that we lose. So I had to kind of readjust my lenses a little bit to understand and take those small wins. Playing against a team that's good, like we've been pretty much in 90% of our games all year, being man down, shorthanded all the time. We still scrap. Those are wins, because I know that they listen to me and they're doing exactly what I'm asking them to do. And sometimes we just don't have enough to actually win the game, but we won the battle, So I've had to kind of readjust my lens on that front, which has tested my patience a lot of times, but I understand what teaching is all about, and there's a lot of pain involved in that. But my guys never let up, man, and that's what I appreciate, But it's also just making me such a better coach, those little small details and those little, when I came into coaching a few years ago, my thinking in basketball is just kind of really high level, to be honest with you. I always thought like vets, they gonna know what I'm saying, and well, I don't have that, So it's helped me out, and it's helped my, my coaching out. I've had to.
Chauncey, what's clicking for DA over the last 9-10 games? Just put it all together.
I think just the familiarity that everybody is starting to have with him, knowing kind of where to get him the basketball at. He's such an elite shooter in that 15, 16-foot area that when you get him there, those are easy shots for him. But our guys are looking for him, his chemistry with Ant that I've been talking about, his chemistry with Scoot. They're looking for him, in those situations and areas. So I think that alone and just having them for long stretches of time, I think is one of those reasons.
Chauncey, what do you think your team learned from that second and third quarter in the last game that may help them in tonight's game, just knowing that they could battle?
Yeah. I thought, we wanted to play fast. When you're playing against the best defensive team in the league, you don't want them to set that defense up. Size they have and the way that they protect the paint. And the three ball is pretty impressive. So you want to play fast. To play fast, you have to get stops. You can't take it out every time. You got to get stops, and you got to get it out and got to go. And I thought we did a good job of that. We focused on the third quarter, halftime, knowing how good of a third quarter team, the Timberwolves are. And, man, I was so happy we had a really good quarter. We really did. We did what we had to do in that quarter, and then it got away from us in the fourth. But I think we can even play faster against them. You need to, but I think we can. So hopefully we do tonight. What's up, D?
Nerdy question for you. I know it's me. Come on. There's a paper that's going to hit Sloan that shows that the value of the three has kind of reached the point of no return. League-wide, the value of the two is right there with the three league-wide. It's kind of no longer is it something that everybody can exploit. In the NFL, you can only pass so much before you go back to the running game kind of deal. Do Do you think that that kind of opens up the avenue for developing a young team? Does that kind of does that align with maybe a change in the NBA where you can take advantage of developing a younger team where stylistically the league is changing, you can kind of adapt more to those changes again, if that's still there?
I mean, I would agree with this. Like, the three ball is definitely here to stay. You know, the scores that teams, the amount of points that people score now is sales tickets. You know, it's the reason why we have the TV deal that we have. People want to see. People don't want to see 85 to 92. So the three ball is here to stay. But I always think it's interesting because when the playoffs start and as you start to get advanced through these rounds, the teams that win it make mid-range jump shots because the defenses are so good they're not giving you that three. So you got to be able to make the shots that are available. So I just think it's so crazy, you know, that, yeah, you want to shoot 35, 43s a night, and you will probably find a way to get those up. But when it gets real, the Kawhis and the KDs and even Stephs, they run them off the line. They make those shots, and the Books and the Jason Tatums, and when it gets real, you'll see the better guys in that area win. So it's you know it's kind of ironic though.
Do you think with that though you end up kind of developing younger guys to focus on that, even though the three in the rim is?
I don't think you focus on it. I know for me, like when we do our player development stuff and skill development stuff, you know, we don't want to settle for those mid-range shots unless it's later in the shot clock. But I also feel like we have to learn how to make those though, because some teams, like we're playing, they don't allow anything else. So what's going to happen? Are you just going to shoot 50 threes and 25 of them are poor fadeaway because it was a three, I'll let it go? Or you take a good, nice, uncontested, you know what I'm saying? So I still develop both, knowing that we want threes and layups and free throws, you know, but the good teams aren't going to allow that. All right.
All right, there you go. There's Coach Phillips. Boy, he unloaded a treasure trove of information tonight. Wow. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come back, and we'll jump into the Coors Light Cold Hard Facts, and then we'll break down some of the different things that Phillips had to say. And if you're Scoot Henderson, you should be smiling right now because your coach is down with your play, with your effort, with your attitude, your coachability, all of it. We'll get to that coming up next. Tip-off is coming up at 7 o'clock here from Moda Center, the Blazers and Timberwolves. And it's going to be right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, here's your Coors Light Cold Hard Fact tonight. Scoot Henderson is back in the starting lineup, and he's going to remain. All right, a couple of different things that Billups said coming out of that pregame press conference tonight. Number one, we're going to see both Scoot and Ant in the starting lineup tonight. And he's going to be back in the starting lineup because Coach Billups says that he deserves it. And I thought what he said was a great compliment, that throughout the entire season, no matter what the situation is, whether he's in the starting lineup or they put him back on the bench, whether he plays a lot in the first half or gets benched in the fourth quarter, regardless of situation and circumstance, he said that Scoot Henderson has handled it and accepted whatever they've asked him to do with no problem. No frustration, no irritation, no questioning, none of it. He's just taken whatever's been given to him and trying to make the most of it. So Billups says he deserves to be back in the starting lineup because of the way that he's played. He's playing really good basketball, but also highlighted all the other things aside from just the recent play for why he deserves it. And that's because of the attitude, the demeanor, the approach. And isn't that nice to hear from the soon-to-be franchise cornerstone, that he's got that type of attitude and the way he handles his business, that he's coachable, and that he doesn't care what role you ask him to fill. He's going to do it with no questions asked. So I just think that's great. Applauding his attitude throughout the course of the entire season. He said, quote, he's about the right stuff. That's a pretty darn good compliment from Coach Billups. So I'm excited that Scoot's going to start, not just now and tonight, but after the All-Star break. There's 28 games remaining, 15 at home, 13 on the road. And that's going to be a time for Scoot Henderson to play, to get starters minutes, to continue to work on his development. And this is going to give him a chance to fulfill what I was talking about. And that's, well, just look at Jabari Walker. So last year he was a second-round pick, had a chance to play a little bit, but not a lot, put in a ton of work during the course of the offseason, and then came in a different player and ready to roll here in season number 2. And so far he's made the most of it, playing better basketball week by week, and eventually was elevated into the starting lineup because of the way he worked, his rebounding, doing what the coaches want, knowing his role, and understanding what he does best to help the team. So my thought is with Scoot, now that we know he's playing better basketball, but the way he works and the time he's put in, now he's going to get 29 games, including tonight, the rest of the way this season, to continue to go out there and perfect his craft. He's got a lot of work to do, a lot of growth. But think of it like this. He'll get 29 games at starters minutes, and then the season's going to end. He'll enter a full off season where he's going to have a chance to put in time in the gym, continue to work on the film, individual drills, all the different things that you need to continue to work and improve. And then camp's going to hit. He'll have season 1 under his belt, so he doesn't have to worry about being a rookie anymore. He'll have a better understanding of what the team wants him to do and how he needs to play. The game will slow down a little bit more. So my thought is that because of his natural ability, think about the leap that he'll be able to make from year 1 to year 2. So I think that's pretty awesome. But very complimentary Coach Billups was of Scoot tonight. And if all goes well, he's going to continue to start for the rest of the year, and we're going to see a lot of Ant and Scoot. And he foreshadowed that after the game on Tuesday when he said you're going to see a lot more of it. He was also asked about DeAndre Ayton's recent play, which has been nothing short of terrific. I mean, he had the 22 points, 16 rebounds in the game on Tuesday against Minnesota, but he said that it comes down to a lot of things. One, he said he thinks it comes down to the familiarity that his teammates have with him. You know, where Ayton's on the floor, he's been available, he's getting a chance to play with Ant and Scoot, and those guys are developing better chemistry with him. The guys on the floor have a better understanding of where he wants the ball and what he needs to get off and get going. And then with that familiarity, things are coming together for him. And I think that can pretty much apply to the entire team, because one thing we've seen over the last few weeks where they have played better basketball, they've had some continuity. Not a lot, but they've had some. And that helps because you know who's going to start. You have a better idea of who's going to be on the floor, who's available, and that continuity will produce better results because guys can develop that chemistry and that understanding of one another, which allows you to be better at your job. And for DeAndre Ayton, like I mentioned before, they're doing a good job of getting him involved early and getting him the ball in a position to where he can attack, so that he gets off to a good start, he becomes engaged, and then that play continues to spill over the rest of the way. And they need that from him, because they don't have a lot of big time options on offense. So when DA is in there and he's aggressive and he's getting to his spots and he's able to produce with both the points and the rebounds, then that's going to make a big difference. So that's really what to expect the rest of the way. We're going to get a chance to see a lot of Scoot Henderson. Billups said tonight that he is back in the starting lineup tonight and will remain there for the rest of the year, assuming that all goes well. So this is great news. Great news for you Scoot fans. It answers a great many questions about, why they were bringing him off the bench. And, I think it goes back to what I've been told over the last few weeks, that they put him in that role because he had been struggling in the starting lineup. They wanted to put him in a position to where he could have a better chance to succeed and develop some confidence. He handled the situation perfectly and in stride and continued to work hard. And with that, he earned his opportunity to get back in the starting lineup. And this is going to be better for the team because you want him on the floor with a chance to develop. So there you go. Scoot Henderson starting, and we're going to see a lot more of Scoot Henderson in that starting lineup. So I think he said tonight your starters are going to be Ant, Scoot, Tamani, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton. Those are your starters. And then off the bench, we'll see obviously more of Delano Banton tonight. Jabari Walker will get some action. And, of course, Duop Reef, who has played terrific basketball for them. And even though Duop came in with more experience having played professionally overseas, I don't think you can overlook the development in the play, the way that the coaching staff has gotten him involved. I like Reef's game. And you can see when he's on the floor. He knows his spots. He knows where to get to. He's smart. He's a competent three-point shooter. He can rebound a little bit. I mean, he's a smart player. I like watching him play. He's been a nice find for the Trailblazers. Duop Reef, when they got him, I was like, who's this guy? Then I had a chance to watch him play and get a chance to see him in some games. I'm like, wait a second, this guy can play a little bit. So I like what I see from Duop Reef. So good news. A lot of good things with the Trailblazers. That's great news to hear that Scoot Henderson has earned his way back into the starting lineup and will get a chance to play. That's great. Love it. And with DeAndre Ayton, I mean, as it was put today from Flex Cruz from Phoenix, he said that, there aren't too many guys on planet Earth that have the physical attributes and the skill set that he does at his size with the things he can do on the floor, which is nice. The other thing, the update that we got from Flex, because he's down there in Phoenix and close to the Suns, we haven't seen the video yet. I'm surprised it hasn't leaked out yet. But that altercation between Isaiah Stewart and Drew Eubanks, Flex talked to the person that apparently had seen the video and said, quote, Eubanks took his punch like a man. And there was another report out that he barely flinched. So, and that resulted in an arrest with the authorities getting involved with the Stewart attacking Eubanks. And Flex said that, there's two sides. Stewart's got his side to the story. Eubanks has got his side to the story. But clearly, the NBA does not want guys attacking other players in the tunnel, in the parking lot. They don't want it happening on the floor. But you can't have guys attacking each other like that, in the arena off the floor. That's crazy. It's craziness. So that's the latest. That's what's going on. All right. Paul reaches out and says, Chad, it's what the Godfather says about you. You're coachable. I don't think so. I don't think the Godfather's going to say that about me. The Godfather would not have the same things to say about me that Chauncey Billups does about Scoot Henderson. I don't think. So this is going to be great. So now we got something to watch the rest of the year. And when you're watching tonight, going back to what Billups said after the last game, like when you're watching Ant and Scoot on the floor together, they're going to, depending on the plays and what's called, both guys are going to be forced into a situation where they're going to have to learn to operate without the ball. And I think that's an important skill to learn at a young age. And that's the way I would prefer Scoot to be coached, because you don't want a guy who plays one way his entire career, and then if you've got to shift it up or change things up, the guy can't adapt. And it's probably ridiculous to ask a guy like Dame, after 10 years in the NBA, to play off ball when he's never done it. But if you can get a guy young and coach him and teach him the right way and help him to learn how to move without the basketball in his hands, how much more effective can he be? Or how much more effective can he be that when the ball comes back around to him, that he can, look to make a play at that point? So I think that's a good idea. Force both guys to operate without the ball in their hands and develop those skills so that they become, more than just a one-dimensional player. Of course those guys are going to be better with the ball in their hands, but, when you can move without the basketball, when the defense doesn't have all eyes on you and put yourself in a position to get open and play as a function in the offense and be a part of the movement, I think good things will come from that. So, I don't know. We'll see how it continues to develop. But, man, I'm pumped. Scoot, I've enjoyed it so much over the last few weeks, just watching Scoot play and be out there and show the improvement and the continued work and the improved shooting percentage, just all the little things he brings to the game. I want to see more of that because I know, like you do, that his development and making sure that he continues to take that next step in his game is critical for the franchise. You know, this rebuild that they're going through, if Scoot hits and becomes a megastar, it's going to make this transition so much easier. So much easier because the problem is, even Oklahoma City can attest to this, you're not going to hit on every draft pick. You're not going to hit on every young player you acquire. But when you get those guys up there near the top of the draft in the top 5 or in the top 3, in the case of Scoot, you need those guys to cash in. Because through this rebuild, the Blazers may not get another pick as high as Scoot. They can't afford for that player not to hit. So that's why watching him and seeing the development and how that comes together is going to be critical. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on game day. When we come back, I'll give you the keys to the game. Tip-off is coming up at 7 here from Moda Center. Coming up at 6, we'll kick it over to Chris Burkhardt, who will have your Trailblazer pregame show across the Trailblazer Radio Network here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, a few keys tonight. Number one, the Blazers need to get off to a cleaner start tonight. They had 10 turnovers in that first half against Minnesota, many of them of the live ball variety. So for the Blazers tonight, going up against the best team in the West, who is also the best defensive team in the NBA, they're going to tighten things up and clean up their play. They did a much better job in the second half, just 6 turnovers in the second half. They finished with 16. But get off to a cleaner start tonight, which will allow them hopefully to be in a better spot offensively. I think after that, knowing how well DeAndre Ayton has played of late, and for all the reasons we just discussed, they've got to make sure that they get him in a spot where he can get the ball where he wants to operate and be aggressive early. Get him engaged early in the game so he can be a key force, because you want to put pressure on Rudy Gobert. You want him to have to defend and have to worry about Ayton. So get him a spot where he can get to his areas where he wants to hit the pull-up jumper, and let him work against Gobert a little bit. So get Ayton in a position where he can have another big night, because you're going to need his presence inside and his rebounding. So cleaner start, get DeAndre Ayton involved. And I think after that, just continue to work on that player movement and ball movement. You know, we saw a couple of the best possessions that we've seen all year in that first half against Minnesota. I think the key is when you're going up against a team that's so good defensively, making sure that you make them work and defend all 5 spots on the floor is going to be critical. So move the basketball, move bodies, and put yourself in a position to, get the best possible shots. Because if it becomes an ISO fest with Grant and Simons, Minnesota's going to be able to adapt to that and defend, and the Blazers' offense will bog down. So I would keep an eye on those things. If they can do that, they'll put themselves in a position. Outside of that, hopefully, Anthony Edwards won't have a monster night. 41 points. He was hitting from all spots. He was attacking the rim. He was shooting the three. He did everything possible to make an impact. The other thing that's scary is that Karl Anthony Towns was really a non-factor in that game on Tuesday. You got to wonder if they're going to be able to hold him at bay, or if he's going to, rise up and have a bigger game tonight. So a lot of things to keep an eye on, but that's kind of the things I'm thinking about for the keys for tonight. A couple other things to remind you of are Chilling for a Cause. A big thanks to all of you who came out and joined us out at the Jackson's Food Store off Banton Road there in Lake Oswego last Friday. It was a great event, and it was great to see a lot of you out there and supporting the cause. Our auction is still up and will go through this weekend. So you've got a couple of more days to be able to bid on the items. So if you go to ripcityradio.com, and from the home page, you click on the 3-bar button in the upper left-hand corner and go down to Contests and Promotions. You'll find the button for Rip City Radio Chillin' for a Cause. And then from that page, you'll see the link where it says check out the auction items up for grabs. Click on that link, and it will take you to our auction page. And we still have a number of items up. We've got autographed Trailblazer team basketballs. You can bid on that. We have the Coors Light Silver Seats, which are available for an upcoming Trailblazer game this year. You can bid on the Coors Light Silver Seats. It gives you 4 tickets. You get a chance to sit in your own area in that sweet setup with the Coors Light Silver Seats. Big, cushy seats, plenty of room. They got the cold rail technology where you can keep your beverage cold, and also a cell phone charger to keep your phone powered up throughout the course of the game. So you can bid on the Coors Light Silver Seats. We've got multiple autographed Trailblazer pennants you can bid on, starting at $25. You can also bid to host the Rip City Drive, where you come in studio and you take over the Rip City Drive for a day. You can talk about whatever you want. If you want to talk about your business for 3 hours, you want to talk sports, whatever, that's up to you. It would be your show. So you can bid on your opportunity to host the Rip City Drive. You can also bid to hit the golf course with Dwight and I out at Forest Hills Golf Course. You can bid on that right now. You can be a Trailblazer reporter for a day, where you can bid and have an opportunity to come to a Trailblazer game, sit at press row, get a press pass. We watch the game together. You see how things operate behind the scenes. And after the game, we go down and take part in the post-game press conference. And then we also have 2 other items. The Scoot Henderson autographed Trailblazer jersey, which is available right now. And then we have the VIP for 4, the VIP night for 4 at the RVN Style Resorts Amphitheater up in Clark County. We dropped the price on that bid. You get 4 tickets in the suite area with your own server to take care of you throughout the night, and you get to pick the concert. It's that simple. So you get to pick the show. You can go and have a great time, be in your own area with the server to take care of your food and beverage needs throughout the evening, and pick the show of your choice. So those are up right now. So go to ripcityradio.com, click on the 3-bar button in the upper left-hand corner. Go to our contests and promotions. You'll see Rip City Radio Chillin' for a Cause. Click on that, and you'll find the link for our auction item. So please bid, because 100% of the proceeds will benefit ALS Northwest to help those families and individuals who are suffering from ALS. A lot of effort that goes into caring for someone with ALS. There's a lot of costs that are involved, and ALS Northwest is able to provide people with the help and the services they need to be able to deal with such a hideous disease. And I'm very happy to partner with and be able to help and be a part of this to help the ALS Northwest for the work that they're doing. So a big thanks to all of you who are bidding, who are participating, who came out to our Chillin' for a Cause event last week. The auction will go throughout the course of the weekend, so please go to our website, go to Rip City Radio Chillin' for a Cause, and then bid on the auction items and take part in something special, because there are people who are in need, and ALS is a horrific disease which causes great devastation and pain and death to families, and we want to help those people. So you can do that right now. Outside of that, this is the final Trailblazer game tonight before the All-Star break. So they'll play tonight, and then they have over a week off. They won't play again until a week from tomorrow when the Denver Nuggets are in town. So this is a great chance for the guys to rest and recoup and get ready for the stretch run. There are 28 games left on the schedule after tonight. 15 are at home, 13 are on the road. And so the Blazers after tonight will officially be entering into the stretch run as they get ready to, put the pedal to the metal. And then the best news that we got tonight is that Scoot Henderson will be in the starting lineup the rest of the way. So we're going to get a chance to watch him play and play big minutes and get a chance to continue this pathway of development, which is awesome. So I'm excited to see it, because I'm all about Scoot developing and becoming the best basketball player that he can. I love it. I love watching him ball. I love his attitude and his demeanor and the way he approaches things. And I'm happy he's going to be out there on the floor. Plus, it'll give him and Ann a chance to continue to work together and continue to develop that on-court chemistry, which is great. So coming up, Chris Burkhardt's got your Trailblazer pregame show. I'm going to join him at 6:40, and we'll be on the Trailblazer Radio Network. Tip-off at 7, Travis Demers and Michael Holton with the call. And then coming up after the game, I'll be live here from Moda Center for the 5th quarter, taking your calls and breaking down everything that happens on the floor tonight. So enjoy the game, and I will talk to you on the 5th. Big thanks to Michael Shacker. He'll be back with me on the 5th as well here on 620 Rip City Radio.